The EU's Landmark AI Act is this massive, complex piece of legislation. But its success really boils down to one crucial part, Article 96. This is the mechanism that's designed to turn all those ambitious rules into something that actually works in the real world. So today, we're going to break down exactly how it does that. Now, this analysis was carried out under the scientific supervision of Professor Vihar Kiskinov, and it really highlights this critical conversation happening right at the intersection of artificial intelligence, the law itself, and the legal science that's trying to make sense of it all. And that really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? You can write the most brilliant, comprehensive rulebook in the world, but if nobody knows how to actually apply it to their work, it's just words on a page. So how does the EU plan to bridge that huge gap between the law and reality? The AI Act is that foundational rulebook, an absolutely unprecedented step in governing a technology that is changing everything around us. But its success isn't guaranteed just because it exists. It depends completely on how it's put into practice. And this is exactly where Article 96 comes in. The best way to think about it is as the engine that generates the official instruction manual. It legally requires the European Commission to develop and issue guidelines, making sure everyone, from startups to public authorities, has a clear roadmap for compliance. Okay, so what's actually going to be in this instruction manual? Well, Article 96 is very specific about the areas that need a whole lot more clarity. The guidelines have to cover several core areas. They need to clarify what really counts as a high-risk AI system, give clear examples of prohibited practices, define what a substantial modification is, detail the transparency obligations, and even help companies figure out if their software qualifies as an AI system in the first place. This is where the guidelines get really tangible. They can't just repeat the law, they have to provide concrete, real-world examples. For instance, what does manipulation of human behavior actually look like in a software interface? Or what really constitutes social scoring? These guidelines are supposed to provide the specific details needed for enforcement. And here's a point that's crucial for any developer. A substantial modification isn't just a simple software update. It's a significant change that could alter how the system complies with the law, or even change its fundamental purpose. The guidelines will explain when an update is so big that it triggers a brand new, full regulatory review. But this clear mandate wasn't created overnight. The final text of Article 96 was really forged through years of debate and compromises between the EU's key institutions. This timeline really shows the journey of Article 96. It started back in 2022 with a pretty reactive approach, where guidelines would only be issued on request. But by mid-2023, the European Parliament pushed for a much more proactive stance, mandating the Commission to actively develop these guidelines. You can really see the push and pull between the Parliament and the Council over the following months, which is what ultimately led to the final, more robust version. The specific point about environmental impact is a perfect illustration of that negotiation process. Back in June 2023, the Parliament wanted the guidelines to address the environmental impact of AI, a major concern with large models. But by January 2024, the Council's version had removed it, probably to streamline the focus. This detail was ultimately omitted from the final law, which shows you exactly where the compromises were made. So we've seen what the guidelines are and how they came to be, but what does this all mean for the people who are actually building and using AI every single day? Let's imagine a small startup for a minute. For them, these guidelines are a lifeline. First, they can use the guide to figure out if their product even falls under the AI Act. If it's deemed high risk, the guidelines will offer practical advice on setting up a proper risk management system. And for user-facing systems, it will clarify exactly how to meet transparency rules. The guidelines even point them toward resources like regulatory sandboxes to innovate safely. And the impact of this ripples through the entire ecosystem. For developers, and especially small and medium-sized enterprises, it means less guesswork and lower legal costs. For the public, it's an assurance that AI is being held to a standard that respects our fundamental rights. And for governments using AI, it's a blueprint for safe and ethical deployment. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of Article 96 is that it's designed for a technology that never ever stands still. This instruction manual isn't a one-and-done publication. The entire system is designed to be a living document, something that can adapt and evolve right alongside the technology it's supposed to be governing. So how does it evolve? It's all about a constant feedback loop. Member states can request updates. The Central AI Office is going to be constantly monitoring the market and gathering input. And the Commission itself can proactively update the guidelines whenever it sees a need. This whole structure is designed for agility. Of course, this creates a fundamental tension that regulators have to manage. On one hand, you need that agility to respond to new technologies like advanced generative AI. On the other hand, businesses need stability and predictability to invest with confidence. The success of these guidelines is going to depend on striking the right balance between these two competing needs. Ultimately, as the source material concludes, the final version of Article 96 is a product of intense collaboration. It creates a clear mandate to develop the guidelines that are going to be absolutely critical for turning the ambitious goals of the AI Act into a functioning reality. And this leaves us with a final question. The EU has built a mechanism that's designed to adapt. But in a world where AI capabilities can change dramatically in a matter of months, not years, can any form of regulation truly keep pace? That is the challenge that lies ahead.